Hello everyone and welcome to an exceptional story of trading success. In this video, we're excited to showcase a real-life trading prodigy from our institute, a trader who not only embraced the art of trading, but mastered it to achieve an astounding profit factor of 10 in just under 3 years. Now, if you recall, in one of our previous videos, my father delved into the critical aspect of trading, understanding and utilizing the profit factor. Building on that knowledge, today, we are incredibly proud and very, very excited to introduce to you a phenomenal talent in the world of trading. Please meet William Wood. In September 2023, William achieved what many strive for over decades. He reached a profit factor of 10 in less than 36 months of trading. This is no small feat. It's a testament to his dedication, his skill, and perhaps a touch of innate genius. In the ensuing conversation, you will witness a captivating dialogue between my father and William, in which they will explore how William navigated the complexities of trading in order to achieve such impressive results. I can say that at the Technical Analysis Institute, we sometimes cross paths with extraordinary individuals, outliers, if you will. These are these trading geniuses who accomplish in a few years what takes most people a lifetime to accomplish. And William Wood is undeniably one of these talents. So without further ado, let's jump into this inspiring conversation and uncover the secrets of William's remarkable journey in trading.
Hello everybody, I'm here with William Wood. He's a good friend and colleague from the Technical Analysis Institute, and he's going to share with us something that he achieved in September that I believe is supernatural. Will, thank you very much for being with us, and thank you very much for agreeing to share with us your experiences as a trader. So first, Will, if you don't mind, would you care to introduce yourself and let our viewers know about your trading history and experience?
Sure. I'm relatively new to the trading world. I have an MBA, so in my background, I did some more fundamental type analysis years ago. Almost 20 years ago, but really am brand new to the trading world and didn't start until COVID. So I'm one of the COVID traders, I guess you could say. And I very early on in my career, I had some very early wins, and then I was caught off guard. And some of you will remember this when kind of some of the high speculation, high technology names started to top before the market topped. I kept on buying the dip, and that's all I knew how to do, was to buy the dip. But I was buying a dip in a downtrend on stocks that had already turned, and so I really hurt my portfolio that for about 3 months in that time frame. And so it was after I had suffered some serious losses. I think if my memory serves me, my portfolio suffered a 35% drawdown in 2 months or something like that by buying the dip on stocks that had already topped and were now in a downtrend. I couldn't recognize the difference between uptrend and downtrend at that point. So at that point, I went out looking for help. And I think if I remember right, I saw a little Facebook ad that was advertising for a Elliott Wave boot camp, and I'd heard of Elliott Waves, and I knew I needed help recognizing trend. And so that's when you and I connected, and I've been studying with you for about 2 years now, I think. I'd have to go back in and look, but right around there. And it's been marvelously helpful.
That's wonderful. I was lucky to have you back then and now. So now the most important question that I think everybody's interested about is about your profit factor. I know that you achieved back in September something beyond a profit factor of 10, which is never heard of, when the profit factor typically is, 1.5, and you went 10 times that. So could you tell us, how did you manage to do that?
Well, I think that there are a few things that helped me, and I think also along with everything I did, there probably was a little bit of luck. I haven't repeated that yet. I hope to be able to repeat that profit factor again. Uh, that profit factor was done day trading, which I have a longer history swing trading, so I'm newer to day trading. And the one thing that really helped me that month is that my success rate with trades was very high. So I won on more than 60% of my trades. If my memory serves me, it was about 63% of my trades were winners. And I had a couple of winners that just kept on running and running and running and running and running. And it was maybe 4 or 5 outsized trades that really made the biggest difference. So my portfolio didn't quite double, but it increased by 83% in September, which was a marvelous increase. And
In 1 month, 83% in 1 month,
83% in 1 month. Yeah.
which is astonishing. And that
Yeah.
reminds me that back in December 2022, you sent me an email detailing how you had finished the year with 137% increase in your ROI.
Yeah.
And that required prowess beyond normal. And I was wondering if you were going to be able to repeat that this year, because that's something that
My fingers are crossed that
no, but you see already by September, 80+%, that's already getting you close to that. You know,
yeah.
those are amazing figures that you accomplished. Now, you mentioned that you had luck, and you were able to capture really good trades that kept running. But on
Mhm.
the other hand, I know that just by chance a couple of days ago, you sent me an email where you showed me all charts where you had made some forecasts that was months ago, and now we
Mhm.
could see that your drawings and your forecasts were really accurate. So
Yeah.
would you say that those forecasts were luck? And
No.
if so, no.
Well, I mean, there's always a little bit of luck. You never quite know what's going to happen. But I mean, when I say that there was luck, what I mean is I had been testing my day trading system for 6 months, and I had been tracking my profit factor and tracking my trades, and I knew that I had a system that worked. So there was a lot of hard work and preparation that came into that. And I also think that my analytical capabilities they've at least gotten okay. I certainly think that there's still a major gap between me and a full-fledged analyst, but I'm able to do things that I certainly could not do 2 years ago, and I really have you to thank for that. The training. I remember when you told me that there would be a day when Elliott wave analysis would become the most useful thing I had ever learned, and I really doubted it because I was so twisted around with it that I couldn't, metaphorically, I couldn't tell my feet from my head, with the trends. I remember some of those early charts and that I sent in, and I even have snapshots of a few of them. And I look back and I go, oh man, that's really bad. But it has turned out to be true that the Elliott wave analysis is very important, and the psychological learning to manage my own psychology has also become very important to the point where I really think that probably for me, the next big leap in consistency, at least, is going to come from learning to manage some of my errors and some of my psychology hurdles that are known things. So,
We are going to go back to psychology in a
mhm.
second because that's a very important topic. But I was wondering, because I'm sure that our viewers are also wondering, if you were able to apply your forecasting abilities, which, by the way, we have to agree to disagree that you're you're not very capable. I think I've seen your work, and your work is
Oh, thank you.
amazing. And were you able to help your day trading by forecasting? And
Yes,
would you say that that helped increase that winning ratio that you were talking about?
there's no question. Even let's see, it's the 7th of November now, and in the last week, for example, price has hit my targets, including today, now 5 out of 6 times, almost within 25 to 50 cents every day. So the level of confidence that I can have entering into a trade, even on my intraday trades with a good forecast, goes way, way up. The other thing that Elliott Waves has allowed me to do is to know when I don't know. When I look at something and I say, I have no idea what's going on, I'm very hesitant to put my capital at risk. I don't want to get in this market because I don't know what's happening and I can't see it clearly. Versus the times like today where I made a forecast, and the forecast is, I'm looking over at it right here off to the side of my screen, is sitting literally at the level right now that I had forecast for the move today. Now, I don't know if that's where it'll end up, but that ability to forecast, the ability to know how to recognize when my predictions are wrong, the invalidation levels, the ability to have several probable paths in mind and to be able to capitalize on ones that are moving in a similar direction, to recognize which structures of the market are more likely to move in my favor and to move with a good move versus a bad move. All of these things have been extremely helpful, and I don't really know another way to do some of the things that I've learned to do with Elliott Waves. It's really quite stunning. That doesn't mean that I'm not wrong sometimes. Sometimes I'm very wrong. More often,
Me too.
if I'm, oh, go ahead, please.
No, I said me too. I'm always wrong.
Oh yeah. And sometimes I get overconfident after a string of long wins. I have to be very careful about that, and that can lead me into some trouble. Sometimes I can get a little impulsive, and I have to really manage how long I'm in front of the computer. Especially that has only become a problem with day trading. That's really not something that has ever been a problem swing trading. There's enough of a break with swing trading that impulsivity doesn't really hit me in the same way. And so there's certain things that are still known challenges, and the ability to forecast has been exceptionally useful in being able to plan my trades and then to be able to act according to plan.
But you see, you have mentioned something there that is so key, which is the knowledge of technical analysis has helped you without you even intending to do so, to gain confidence, which has actually improved your trading psychology. So I actually wanted to ask you, is that trading psychology or the improvement in trading psychology, or your observations of trading psychology, has in any way impacted your life, and in ways that sometimes, trading actually changes us. At least that was my experience. And I was wondering if you have experienced the same thing.
I have, yeah. And I find that I think that as much as 90 or maybe 95% of my overall performance is directly related to my psychology. The technical piece is very important. Having a good plan is important. Having an edge in the market is very important. But the inability to follow through on the edge, and the inability to follow through on a good plan, and the lack of discipline that comes from chaotic trading, these are not things that a good technical plan can solve. And so for me, the mastery of self is really what I think this is. And we call it trading psychology. This is like high performance self-management or something like that. I don't know what to call it exactly, but it's the ability to perform at very, very high levels. We're going into an arena against professionals who have billions of dollars at their command to be able to invest into the brightest minds and the best computer systems and algorithms that are designed to manipulate psychology. And unless we go in like an Olympic athlete with all of the tools of our craft, and then all of the ability to refine our thinking, I think that we at some point will come head to head with ourselves in the market. And most of us are going to make some mistakes along the way. I don't know any traders that really haven't. When we know what to do and we don't do it, or we know we should stay away and we don't, or we know we shouldn't enter into that trade but we do, or we hold on too long because we can't admit that we were wrong, or whatever it happens to be for each of us. I know I mentioned a couple of things already, but for me, at the end of each trading day, to sit down with some of the journaling techniques that you've taught us, and to just journal and to notice what types of psychological patterns come up, to look for triggering moments. When was it in my trading that I went from being very calm to being emotionally dysregulated. I'll share one yesterday. The trade turned out okay. It could have turned out very badly, but I was in a trade. The trade was I had seen the completion of a small intraday corrective move down, and it looked like there was bottoming action. And so my hypothesis was that we were going to retrace the prior move about 50%, which is what happened. And I entered in with, if my memory serves me, I entered in with 20 micro contracts of the ES, so the micro ES, MES. It was the MESZ 23 that I was trading at the time. And I had planned my take profit level where I was going to scale out 2/3 of my position. So I was going to scale out of 15 contracts. And then I was going to let 5 contracts run. I placed an automatic, what I thought, I was going long. So I placed an automatic sell order right at resistance, right where I had calculated resistance should be based on prior price structure and based on Fibonacci levels. And but instead of placing a sell order, I placed a buy order for 15 more contracts. And fortunately, I happened to be in front of the computer when it executed. So I thought I was scaling out with about 9.5 points of profit. And I was just getting ready to celebrate when I looked, and the count on my screen went from 20 to 35. And all of a sudden, my brain shut off. I went into complete panic mode because I knew that this was a place where price was very likely to meet serious resistance. And I thought, I'm going to wipe myself out here if I'm not very careful. And even talking about it, my palms are starting to sweat. And my logic brain went out the window. And I managed to close the position out. Fortunately, there's essentially a panic button on NinjaTrader, and I hit the panic button, and it just closed everything, all my open orders. It just shut everything down, and I was very relieved in the moment that that button was there, and at the same time, I was still in the middle of my trading session, so I still had more time to trade. Fortunately, because of the psychological training that we've done, I knew I was in no position to trade at that point. My body was flooded with adrenaline. I was not able to think, and so rather than trade, I closed down everything. I put on my walking shoes, and there's a nice little roundabout here that's about a mile that I can walk. And I went and walked for 40 minutes. And it took about all 40 minutes for my blood pressure to return back down to normal. And I know if I had tried to trade in that state, I would have been trading out of panic, fear, or desperation, and I would not have had access to my normal state of mind. And so the psychology itself, the psychology itself for me, I think, is the biggest hurdle. Knowing full well that I have more to improve on my technical abilities, knowing that I can get better at execution. Obviously, I shared an error yesterday. There's executive things that can happen in terms of the way that I'm executing my trades and managing my trades. I certainly sometimes chicken out, even when I know that my target is good. I will exit because I have a good profit, and I exit early and don't let something run. So there's things that I know that I can do to improve in that psychological space. And I think that as I reduce the frequency of those errors, and as I minimize some of the limiting beliefs and unconscious performance limits that I have for myself, that I think I'm going to see more consistency in my trading.
Yeah, you know that what you have done in such a short time is really impressive, and to achieve success in day trading is something that, is not very common. I mean, everybody knows that 99% of day traders lose money.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, did you have any impactful turning point when you realized that you can actually do this, and you could actually earn money consistently in the markets? Was there any impactful thing there?
Yes, absolutely. I think it directly ties back to learning technical analysis. I think actually my first big turning point, knowing, rather than making money chaotically like I did in the beginning, out of pure luck, right? I would see a stock that I knew was good, through fundamental analysis, but that doesn't mean that the timing is any good, right? And so I picked some winners almost haphazardly in the beginning. But it wasn't until I went through your trendline course that I knew that I could make money consistently. And I still knew I couldn't do Elliott waves at that point. For me, maybe for someone else it will go much quicker, but for me, I'm 2 years into learning Elliott waves and I feel like I'm still a toddler learning to walk. And I'm just now seeing the fruit of the 2 years worth of frustration that it took to get here. And I mean frustration because there were days when I just thought I was never, ever going to get it. But that was the first big turning point. When I went through, I thought a trend line, how complex is a trend line? What is there to learn even? And I went through the course because I had known you at that point, and I knew that you were the best teacher that I bumped into in the technical analysis space. And so I said, well, let's see what he has to say. Maybe it'll be a good refresher for me. And I went through, and there was at least 15 things in that course that I had no idea were a thing. And walking out of that course, I, for the first time, had a tool that told me when to enter, when to exit, and how to manage a trade. And I knew coming out of that I could do that. And so for my early trading that started to go well, it really was mostly due to the ability to see trend lines. And of course, I applied that on the swing level first, and have had great consistency in swing trading thanks to that course. And after that, as I have gotten more and more consistent at being able to do my Elliott wave projections, I have seen only an improvement from there. So technical analysis was the first barrier for me to get through. And now that I'm confident that I have an edge that seems to work in the market, I think that the next great frontier is to refine my technical abilities while I improve my psychology.
But would you say that your most difficult obstacles, perhaps conflicts and hurdles, were the psychological ones?
No question, and still are. Yeah, I've shared with you that we've had family situations that have come up that have been health challenges that have been very, very difficult, and being able to even think while something really catastrophic is going on can be a major challenge. But I think for me, I would put my greatest challenges in the realms of conquering limiting beliefs about myself. I would say that there are consistent emotional triggers around becoming impulsive. I have to especially watch if I've had a really good winning streak. I mean, I'll tell you another error that I made in the last 2 weeks, and not one I'm super proud of, but this is real, and I think that this may help somebody. I had a week. I'd made about 3 or 4 trades most days. I think I had one day where I overtraded some, so I probably had done 8 trades that day, and I still managed to make money, but it was a little bit more chaotic that day for me, for sure. And so I had got to the end of the week, and I had done maybe 25, 30 trades, something like that by the end of the week. And I had made by Friday, this is last Friday I had made on my portfolio, I had made 10.5% for the week, which is a good week.
Wonderful.
A wonderful week. Yeah. And I wasn't managing how much time I was in front of my screen, and which I know for me can be a real problem. I hadn't taken a break, and it was 1:30 my time, which is about 3:30 Eastern time, which is within the last half hour of the day. And I had a gambling brain that just took over. And I fortunately didn't risk any of my original capital, but I took all of my wins for the week, and I did something exceptionally stupid. And I knew it was stupid. Going into it, I knew it was either going to work or it was going to fail miserably. Well, of course, it failed miserably. I can predict when I go into gambling brain or impulsive brain, I lose those trades 99% of the time. And I blew in 5 minutes, I blew a whole week's worth of very disciplined, mostly pretty disciplined trading. I had been 99% in discipline all week, maybe a little over trading one day. They were okay setups, not great setups, that one day that I overtraded. But the rest of the week, I was like, I was more disciplined than a monk. And then in 5 minutes, just gone, right? I was very, very sorry. I had to, I had to turn off my computer, and I swore a little bit, and I don't usually swear. And I had to go to the gym and exercise in the evening just to be able to turn my brain around a little bit. But these are the kind of things that I think especially with day trading are real dangers, gambling mind, fear mind, greed mind, limiting belief mind, the inability to ride a profit, which ultimately comes down to fear. I think a lot of times, at least for me, doubt, self-doubt, having some limitations about what's possible. I mean, all of these things are the real things that I think are barriers to success.
It's interesting how the more we learn, the more we realize that 90% of the, let's say, success component in trading is psychology. Of course, psychology and money management. But
Yep.
for whatever reason, I mean, the least is strategy. But for whatever reason, everybody focuses on this 10%, which is a strategy, this indicator, how you use it. And they don't realize that it is the other 90% that they neglect, which is stopping them. And I'm so glad that you have realized that, because obviously you have managed to overcome those things. Now I have a question, a bad question to ask you. Do you have any
Sure.
regret?
I wish I would have started earlier with a good teacher. I think that figuring this out on your own is almost impossible to do. At least it's the shortcut. I mean, I know there's a lot of good videos out there, and there's a lot of free resources where someone could start. And I would say if you're in a financial crunch, you can at least start with what's free, and you can find a mentor that has the experience that's real, and find one to follow from afar. Maybe he doesn't know you or she doesn't know you, but you follow them. That would be one place to start. I wholeheartedly would recommend somebody to take your courses and start with your online content. I regularly share your videos with friends of mine that trade, hoping that they'll see what I saw. Yeah. But I think that the shortcut after that is to find a mentor. Find someone who's very strong in the area that you really need help with. Every good trader started off as a new trader at one point. Every expert was a novice. And every child has to learn how to talk and to walk. And no one comes into the world fully developed in terms of their capacity. And the shortcut really is to have a good mentor. So the only thing I wish is that I wish I had sought out good mentorship earlier on. And at the same time, I think I've had to learn the lessons, both easy and hard, that I've learned in the way that I had to learn them. I don't know a shortcut through that process. So I not a lot of regrets really, but of course there are trades I wish I could undo, or days when I wish I could wake up and go back to my past self and say, stay home today. You're better off staying home, sleep in a little bit, eat a healthy breakfast, go out for a nice walk, enjoy nature,
Of course. Well, somehow you have already done so, but would you have any particular advice that you would give to a novice trader who is just starting in his path and his aspirations?
Yeah, I have 2 or 3 things that I think would have saved me a lot of distress. These are things that if I have a daughter right now who's very interested in learning how to trade, and I've told her there are for all the talk that we have about psychology, which I do think is the great difference maker for most of us. You need to start with some kind of edge, some kind of system that works. It could be a very simple system in the beginning until you learn some more sophistication, but you need to have something. And so she says, what would you recommend I do? I said, well, let's teach you one simple system, something that is a good match with your temperament. We all have different temperaments, a time frame that seems to make sense to you based on your work schedule and based on your own psychological preferences, based on what you're trying to do. And then before we give you any real money to trade with, and she has saved up some money, or before you use any of this money that you've saved up through your employment, let's get you to test your system over 100 to 500 trades. it'll feel like you've slowed down because you'll have some big wins on paper that you know that you could have made, millions of dollars if you just applied it with real money. But the reality is that most people will leap into that early. And I've watched a lot of traders, a lot of new traders without a system or without a very good system, blow up their money on hope. And hope is a terrible strategy. So I'd start off on paper, but then pretty quickly after 100 or 500 trades, maybe a little bit less if you're swing trading, but 50 or something like that. But after you're confident that your system works and you know what the upside and the downside is, then it would be time to take a very small portfolio, $1,000, $2,000, and to start off with something very, very small, and to use the same level of rigorous testing on something very small before you risk large amounts of capital. And the reason is that once you introduce, I think, live money, live gains, now you're not only exposed to the technical end of the trade, but you're exposed to fear and greed and doubt, and all of the market will expose all of your weaknesses to you. It's a mirror that's very hard to look at, which is the reason why I think that people don't like to look at psychology. It's very hard to look at the self. It's very hard to admit that there might be a flaw, or there might be something that's limiting your potential in some way. And the market is a perfect mirror. It'll reflect back to us exactly who we are and how we show up. So at that point, a small
factor would you recommend your daughter to have before she goes live?
Absolutely no less than 1.5 or 2, but ideally 2. Yeah. So we want to track the win rate and the profit factor, especially. And you want to track your ability to, maybe you're grading yourself on following your plan, even on paper. I think you could make your own grading system. I would probably do 1 to 10 for myself, or 1 to 100. That's what I do on a daily basis. I do 1 to 10. I say, how well did I execute? Even I'll give myself a 0 some days, but no, absolutely no grade. That was awful, or -10 or something like that if it's really bad. But after my Friday trade last week, I wanted to give myself a -20, but for for the last 30 minutes of the day, for stupidity, I mean, that was a substantial chunk of money. I was really upset, actually, but to grade yourself based on execution, because your execution score, in my opinion, your win rate and your profit factor will all tell you where your problems are. Your profit factor, not over one trade, not over 10, but over about 100 to 500 trades, will tell you an awful lot about whether or not your edge is a real edge or it's an imagined edge. Your win rate tells you something about the consistency of your analysis, and will tell you also something about how large your profit factor needs to be. If you're consistently winning 60% of the time, you probably can do with the profit factor of 1.5. That's probably fine to have a system that works that way. But if your win rate is consistently in the 40s or the 30s, you need a profit factor that's going to be above 2 or even 3 to be able to survive. And so those components, along with the psychological components, the performance metrics, I think, are going to be absolutely critical. And then to pay attention to whether or not the system matches your temperament, the time frame matches your temperament. Day trading, I would tell people brand new to absolutely stay away from day trading. Swing trade or position trade for a while. Get your feet wet. You add more time because you're more likely to make money. It's really, really sexy to want to do day trading, but it's the hardest type of trading that exists.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's the type of trade that everyone wants to start with, when it's the one that you have to do after you have mastered the art of trading and after you have mastered yourself.
It's like giving a 10-year-old a bullet bike. It's just not a good idea. It's going to lead to bad things. So, or putting a 15-year-old in a NASCAR and letting them, race against seasoned professionals. Of course, they're going to crash. It's something that you can predict from 10,000 miles away. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. One last question, Will, that I want to ask, because I'm sure that our viewers will benefit from those who day trade. How do you prepare yourself for the day?
If I've made a big mistake during the day, I seriously reflect on whether or not I should be trading the following day. The worst thing in the world to do is to compound a big psychological error by 2 or 3 days in a row. That's where I've sustained my largest losses. is by doing the same kind of stupid over and over again without any kind of intervention. The first thing that I'm doing is I look at your forecast for the ES, and I review my own forecast, and I review my plan from the night before, and I review the chart with what I've drawn the day before. And when I've got all of that armed, now I'm ready. I know what I think I'm going to be doing. And at the end of the day, I want to review how close did I execute relative to my plan. Was it far away or was it near?
Now, out of curiosity, for your psychology, have you ever used the form that I suggest, the daily trading preparation form?
I did for a very little while, and then I have forgotten about it. And I need to go and start. I really do need to go back and start using it again. I know it's quite good.
I found it very useful, very, very, very useful. Perhaps at least for some time, but it helps transformation.
I'll re-download it today and start using it. I mean that. It's probably a good reminder for me to use things that I know that work.
I didn't mean to. But it's on the first page of our inside membership.
For a reason, yeah.
Yes, exactly. William,
notice it's not on page 10, Will. It's not on page 10.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your experience and your phenomenal achievement, both last year achieving 137% of ROI and this year in September with 87%, was it?
83% in September.
83%. Yeah. Imagine that. It's unbelievable. So thank you so much for sharing and for helping new traders to realize that it is possible if you are disciplined, because that's the key, and you really made it very clear.
Yeah, thank you.